The 50s was when rock and roll began, and 1954 is often chosen as the year of rock and roll's birth. But really, it was thanks to a lot of trends that had been coming together since the end of World War II. Minority populations in the United States now had more money, so it made economic sense to sell them records. The major record labels weren't about to do it, so a lot of small labels, particularly in the black music, rhythm and blues, or R&B field, sprang into existence. Teenagers, too, had more money than ever before, and began to define themselves as a distinct class of people with their own wants, tastes, and spending power. In country music, electric instruments and the popularity of boogie meant that music was developing a harder beat and more black influence than ever before. War jobs had brought a lot of country people to the city, with the result that black people were exposed to more jazz and big band or jump blues, resulting in hits like Roy Brown's Good Rockin' Tonight. Younger urban black people liked the stripped-down mellow harmonizing of groups like the Orioles and the Ravens, who sang in front of minimal instrumental accompaniment. Around 1952, things started to get mixed up. White urban teenagers began buying R&B records in sufficient quantity that a record store owner in Cleveland, Ohio, approached his friend Alan Freed, a disc jockey on a local station, and told him he should put together a program playing black music for white kids. He did, and it paid off in a big way. In New York, two jazz fans started a label, Atlantic, and they found they were recording more and more black pop music by singers like Ruth Brown and Laverne Baker. When they got a mediocre blues singer, Ray Charles, and encouraged him to sing more like he did in church, they found themselves with a new kind of music that would one day be called soul. In Chicago, two brothers who owned a nightclub started Chess Records to record a down-home kind of blues that they could sell to the nostalgic Southern blacks who came to their club, and soon Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf found themselves stars. Down in Memphis, Sam Phillips was recording blues and dreaming of a white kid who could sing black, while across town a poor white teenager named Elvis Presley was buying every black record he could lay his hands on. Rock and roll wasn't born in 1954. To be honest, it wasn't born at all. Well, not in any one place at any one time. It just sort of coalesced, and as the new year dawned, that process was already well underway. You can see the development in the R&B charts. At least the top record there in the first week of January of 1954 is Money Honey by the Drifters, a number most people would consider rock and roll. More significantly, perhaps, on January 4th, a Memphis truck driver makes a second visit to the Memphis recording service to pay for another recording of himself playing guitar and singing. Elvis Presley, who was about to turn 19, had been there before in September of 1953 to cut two tunes for his mother when the secretary cum office manager, Marion Keisker, had noticed his unusual voice. Something clicked in her mind. Her boss, Sam Phillips, had once said, "If I could find a white man with the Negro sound and the Negro feel, I could make $1 billion." And Keisker had a feeling she'd found that white man. Pausing here to note that that is a direct quote from Sam Phillips, and in the day and age that he made that quote, it would not have been contextually offensive using the word Negro to describe music. Moving on, Phillips, who also has a recording label called Sun, operating out of the same studio, had missed Presley's first visit, but he is around this time, and although he doesn't think much of the two recordings, country songs entitled Casual Love Affair and I'll Never Stand in Your Way, he takes down the kid's phone number, which actually belongs to the rabbi who lives downstairs in the same apartment building, for future reference. For some time now, being a Negro artist with the Negro sound and the Negro feel have been none too good for your career. The watchdogs of public morals in the United States have been vigilant against, quote, lewd and lascivious lyrics, end quote. And it seemed the first place to look for them was on R&B records. On February 26th of 1954, a bill is introduced to the United States House of Representatives to make mailing or transporting dirty records a crime punishable by a $50,000 fine. It doesn't get through, and in April, Johnny Ray's version of the Drifters' Such a Night is banned as too suggestive for the American airwaves. On May 8th, the BBC follows suit. In this climate, it is much wiser to play it safe, as Bill Haley, a Western swing band leader from Pennsylvania, knows. On April 12th, he and his band, the Comets, recorded 2 songs for their new Decca contract. We're Gonna Rock Around the Clock and 13 Women. The songs flop. Rock Around the Clock will later hit the top charts of the summer of 1955, almost a year and a half later, and on April 28th, while recording a version of Big Joe Turner's Shake, Rattle, and Roll with rewritten lyrics, Haley tells a reporter, "We steer clear of anything suggestive." Not so Hank Ballard and the Midnighters, though. On April 14th, their first hit since changing their name from the Royals, after getting stuck with a lawsuit from the much more successful 5 Royals, enters the R&B charts. Work With Me, Annie is about as suggestive as rock and roll music gets until the 70s, when Marvin Gaye and Donna Summer will help push the boundaries even further. And the song becomes a touchstone for the growing numbers of hip white youngsters around the country who are seeking out R&B records for their passion and thumping beat. These same kids have been the backbone of success for a disc jockey in Cleveland, Ohio over the last couple of years. Alan Freed, mentioned before, a classically trained trombonist and Wagner fan, had been floundering with his late-night show until a friend with a recording store alerted him to the number of white teenagers buying records by black artists and persuaded him to give those songs a try on his show. The Moondog Show quickly became the hottest thing on radio, and Freed took advantage by staging live performances featuring the artists whose records he was playing. On May 1st, he takes a daring leap by presenting the Moondog Coronation Show in Newark, New Jersey, drawing in excess of 10,000 fans and turning away nearly that number again. There's no doubt about it, pop music is undergoing a revolution, and on January 17th in Britain, the first issue of the pop weekly Record Mirror rolls off the presses. Sam Phillips road tests Elvis Presley's That's All Right Mama and Blue Moon of Kentucky single by pressing up an acetate and taking Elvis himself down to Dewey Phillips' show on radio station WHBQ. Elvis knows Dewey as the white DJ who plays black music in the Memphis area, and he is terrified. But Dewey has promised he'll play the record, then interview Elvis. And he's as good as his word, making sure Elvis mentions he'd gone to school at Humes High, so people knew he was white. Pause to remind students that in this day and age, the law stated that students who were white and students who were black, again by law, were required to go to different high schools. The phone lines go nuts, and Phillips has to order a second pressing before he's even gotten the first. He already has in excess of 7,000 orders for the record. Nonetheless, the glory of being the first white guy with an R&B hit falls not to Elvis, but to Bill Haley, whose version of Shake, Rattle, and Roll winds up in the top 10 at this time, which is an unusual feat for a record with mostly teen appeal. And it seems the teens are heating up to R&B in great numbers. Alan Freed's popularity is such that he is wooed away from Cleveland by New York's WINS, where he reports for work on September 9th. Meanwhile, his Los Angeles counterpart, Hunter Herbie Hancock, is doing well syndicating his own radio show and promoting concerts on the West Coast.